Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Above All. We have assembled to discuss the incident-packed draw against Liverpool. 2-2, it ended. Lots of frustration, lots of anger. Let's see if it subsided. We've got Daniel and Brian with me tonight to discuss that and everything else. But of course, let's get into the intro. Welcome to the show. I've got Brian. Brian, how you doing? It's been a while since you've been on. How you feeling, man, after that?
It's lucky you're doing it a couple of days after. Like, I think I've calmed down a little bit. I've calmed down a little bit, yeah. But I suppose there's a small sense of pride as well. There's a very small sense of pride.
Good. We'll get into that. Thanks for joining me again tonight. And we've also got Daniel James, the vlog man. How you doing? You've had some issues, technical issues.
Had some technicals
late, but you okay?
Yeah, all good, man. I've had some technicals, but all good. Like Brian, just managing to calm down from all the from the fallout. But yeah, we'll discuss.
You was there on Sunday, weren't you? So yeah, you've got probably a couple of unique takes on it. So thanks, gents, for your time. Yeah, really appreciate it. So let's get into it. 2-2. We went into that game. Obviously, a lot of people again stating it was like a must win for us. And some people were saying it was a must not lose. I was probably in that camp. It must not lose one, especially with the fact that we didn't have Saka and then we weren't going to have Timber. Then obviously it turned out those two did start. They were in the team. What's your thoughts on how you feeling at the moment now, Brian? After it, to reflect, a couple of days afterwards. Do you feel it's 2 points dropped, or do you think, under the circumstances with everything that happened during the game, with the suspensions as well to Saliba, do you feel we're just happy to get away, get that game out of the way, and try and get some bodies back, or do you feel that, taking the lead twice like we did, it was disappointing that we, couldn't hold on, and the way we kind of executed that second half? But what's your overall thoughts on that game?
It's kind of grating to a certain degree because, leading twice in the game and coming out of it, I came out of the game trying to feel as positive as I possibly could in the circumstances with regarding to. A lot of people were writing us off before the game started anyway. The pundits were already writing us off. So we had to put in some level of some performance to demonstrate to people that, that we can, say, compete and cope when we don't have our regular 11 out. When you look at Liverpool's 11, that's basically their starting 11. That's their standard back four that they would usually play week in, week out. We were missing ours effectively, and we had, Timber just coming back. Thomas Partey put back into a right back position where, we've noticed that at times he's not looked very comfortable at times. And then Ben White switching back to where he probably virtually started his career. So we were very makeshift when you look at it. And Liverpool, they basically had, other than probably Jota, they probably had their best lineup that we were against. So I tried to weigh a lot of things up in the whole scheme of it, but it's still a bit grating that we conceded late on, and we'll probably come on to the fact of obviously the kind of our kind of tactics towards the latter part of the game as well.
Yeah, we'll get into that. What's your thoughts? How was it for you, Daniel, actually being there, obviously in the stadium? Obviously, we're watching it at home, and obviously the tension obviously is ridiculous. But in the stadium, just how it all transpired. The first half performance, after they equalised, I think we totally dominated. All the stats show you that. We had loads of chances. Mourinho had a good chance, which I think it seemed like it was Partey that kind of tackled him and made him hit the ball wide. But then after that equaliser from Van Dijk, we were all over him. And then obviously things, the way they transpired in the second half. What was the feeling? Going through that. Must have been a roller coaster of emotions again. But again, are you feeling the same with like Brian? As the way we kind of executed that second half and the way we finished the game up, it's almost like, I think we said on a few places that it's like we had 10 men again, the way we were defending and had bodies behind the ball. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. I think going into the game with all the the injuries and the doubts and suspensions and stuff like that, I think there was I would say that there was quite a bit of apprehension, amongst the fans. There was a bit of confident, but not as confident as if we had, most of our guys there. So it wasn't like, we're going to go out and smash them like how we've been, the feeling that we've had over the last 2 seasons, for example. But once we got into a 2-1 lead, it was then disappointing to then lose it in the last 10 minutes. And that's so when the full, you saw the celebrations from the Liverpool players and fans at the end. They were elated with a draw, and I'm thinking, you're elated to come here and grab a draw against Arsenal when we've had so many injuries and we've ended up with a back four of an 18-year-old rookie, Kiwior, who we don't trust 100%, Ben White, who hasn't played centre back for years, and Partey as a unorthodox right back. Like, honestly, when we went to that back four at one point in the game, all of us were looking at each other like, "Oh, we're gonna get absolutely, it's gonna end up 3-4-2 or whatever." So, saying that, having been in that position with 10 minutes to go, we spoke about this, Mike. It was disappointing to see kind of the team go very defensive. Me, I would have put on Ethan. I would have put on Ethan just to give him something to think about, going forward. To think, this boy's got bags of talent. We need to watch him, on the ball and stuff. I would have just give the ball to Ethan, let Ethan do his thing. But, he decided to go ultra defensive and invite pressure, and we ended up losing the game from a winning position. Yet not losing the game, but it felt like a loss. Losing points from a game when we were in a strong winning position, and that's happened quite a few times in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. The fact that the numbers, the personnel we didn't have out there. Obviously, Gabriel, huge. You saw the reaction of the players when he was on the floor and everybody was around him. They was like almost pleading that he was all right and there was nothing wrong with him. So he's a massive figure, to be without. And you're thinking, you're absolutely right to finish that game with that back four. I mean, that's not even makeshift, is it? That's just like that's like sellotape and and duct tape, just putting a defense together just to see how against the top side, against the clinical side, the efficient. Again, Nunez and Salah to a certain extent were pretty quiet during the whole game. Yeah. Apart from that chance Salah had in the first half when Mourinho messed up a bit. But it just shows you how clinical they are, and that's always the thing with Liverpool. I think you've always got to you know, you can't sit back against them. You know, we've seen it time and time again. You know, under Wenger, we've gone. You know, the 4-4 we had up there. I think we were winning at the end. With them, you've got to keep trying to put them under. You know, if you sit back, they're just relentless. They'll keep trying to get back at you. You know, they're like, you know, St. James's pod yesterday. They're like a villain or in a you know, B movie. You know, when you at the end, when you think you've killed him, you think you've done him in, and then next thing he pops up again, and then you do him again, and he pops up. You know, when you see him running in the rearview mirror, gets up and all that stuff. That's what Liverpool are like. You've got to put them to sleep before you know, like we did last season when Trossard scored that goal when he came on to make it 3-1. You've got to have some daylight between them because they're always going to be dangerous. I agree. I think also it was down to the fact that certain players didn't play well. We know who did play well, obviously Bukayo Saka and Thomas Partey. You know, we'll touch on them a little bit more. But I think maybe the way the second half transpired, Brian, was because the likes of Gabriel Martinelli and Havertz, I thought that they were pretty poor in their judgment when they had the ball. A couple of times Havertz had the ball and he just gave it away, did really silly things, and the same with Martinelli. You know, and that was frustrating. I think Arteta as well has kind of shown that he's kind of maybe at the end of his tether with him as well. What's your thoughts on that and just how we go forward with him? Because it doesn't seem like Sterling's having a look in. He's not featured in the last couple of games, has he? He got dragged obviously against Bournemouth. He didn't come on against I don't think he came on against Shakhtar. Or I think he might have, but he didn't get any minutes obviously against his old club. You're thinking that maybe a chance for him to do something there. But what's your thoughts on how we deal with Martinelli? Because a lot of people were saying he played well, but I must have been watching a different game. You know, he did a couple of good runs, but I think there was an incident in the first half where he went up against Konate, and Konate kind of just beasted him basically, and looked like he just lost his head from there. But what's your thoughts on what we do with him and his development as a player? Because it's kind of a bit worrying now in terms of how he approaches the game. Really, you don't really know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Martinelli himself. I think in some respects, the management team and the coaching team can go out with game plans and so on. And I think when you notice, particularly when we're at home, you know, we love a fast start, and that's the kind of the ideal for a Martinelli. Like a fast start, get the full back on the back foot quite quickly, you know. But as the game goes on, you have to adjust yourself into making different decisions in different circumstances within the game, and you won't be able to just continually just run and run down channels because decent fullbacks will just pick you off. So I think it's him and his own game intelligence, but then the coaching team has to take some responsibility with that when what we're asking him to do out there. You know, are we asking him to be a winger to go out there and beat people? Okay. Are we asking him to, make those kind of creative decisions when coming inside, for argument's sake? You know, what are we asking of him to generally kind of do as that winger? When you see what happens on the other side, when you see what Saka does on the other side, you know, he's probably not as quick as Martinelli, but he's got the trick. And he's got the game intelligence to do something different to make things happen. And that's what Martinelli, I think, he seems to have been having that kind of, he's a bit more, how can we put it, one-dimensional. He's probably one-dimensional. And I think that's probably the issue.
That's the thing, because Daniel, because you can see, you know, the development of both players. You know, you can see what Saka's doing, and he's always producing numbers, even when we kind of think that he's not, you know, impacting the game as much, but he still comes up with a cross or set piece or goal. With Martinelli, I still think you're at the point where he's like a kid still playing. You know, his game IQ isn't, you know, it isn't developed as much. And I think, you know, Arteta's been there 5 years now, and he's still kind of not, you know, where he wants to be, you know, in terms of, you know, his output. Obviously, he had that great season 2 seasons ago. But is it coming to a point where we maybe got to look at that area to maybe invest in? I know over the last couple of seasons we've looked at that area. It's, you know, obviously Nico Williams was someone that we were linked with quite highly. Obviously Mudryk as well a couple of years back. What's your thoughts on him as well? I mean, do you think maybe, you know, that is something where we have to invest, or an area we need to invest in, you know, as soon as we can, basically, whether that's January or the summer?
If I'm honest, I think it's an area that we have been, like you just said, I think it's an area we have been looking at anyway, to be honest. I think, as you said, the last 2 years, with the last 18 months, he's been pretty poor since kind of like towards the end of last season, the season before last, sorry. Last season it wasn't great, and this season he's not been great neither. Yeah, I do think he's now kind of turning into what you would kind of call a bit of a one-trick pony. It's like unless there's a good amount of clear grass in front of him, it's like he doesn't know what to do. His head's down a lot. Often doesn't look up and see the pass. He's just really frustrating to watch at the moment. Obviously, we're behind him. We're still supporting, but the last 18 months or so have been a really frustrating watch of Martinelli. I think we do need to have a look at that now. Does he need competition maybe to kind of give him an extra bounce? Possibly, but certainly we don't have the squad to make an effective change on a long-term basis. We've got players that can fill in there. Trossard can do a job there, but he's no left winger. You know, Sterling, I was hoping, would be the person to kind of push him and give him something to think about. But as you said, Mike, he doesn't seem to be getting the call that often at the moment. Don't know why. But I would say that, yeah, Konate probably did get... I think Konate's in his head, if I'm honest. Konate is definitely in his head. And it was a shame, really, to see his performance and he, you know, especially with giving the ball away at the end there for the goal. I just think Arteta needs to do more by hooking him off and just to teach him a lesson and just to show him, look, if you're playing badly, I'm going to hook you off.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a really frustrating watch at the moment of Martinelli. It's a shame because he started with so much promise and that. And even Liverpool fans, fans of mine were saying, what's happened to Martinelli? They were saying, like, every time we used to play you guys, up until a year and a half ago, like they told me that they were literally afraid of Martinelli because of the pace and, you know, the directness, but he's just, I don't know what's happening with him.
Yeah, it's you know, he did have his tail up obviously in the first half, but you know, he did cause Trent a lot of trouble. But I think when Konate was basically within the area, he just like shut him down, and it was quite frustrating to see that all he was doing was just had his head down. And the second goal as well, that he's part in that as well. Yeah, so frustrating, man. But let's talk about obviously. You're gone.
That's game. That is a bit of game intelligence, if you ask me, because when you have to drag the centre half out there to help your fullback out there, you're better off hogging the touchline.
Yeah,
because then you
exactly.
And then you go isolated against the fullback. There, you're not going to the centre half's not going to come out with you. But it didn't. If you're not doing that, you're just, you know, we know that Trent can't defend. Let's just be honest about it. He can't defend. He's not the greatest defender. And you know, and an under par Martinelli still went past him early in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
But when he was coming in slightly, it allowed Konate to basically double up on him. So it's that game. It's that game intelligence. You know, hug the touchline. Take Trent out there with you, because he don't want to go out there. He don't want to go out there. Do you know what I mean? But then that's where the likes of where you miss an Odegaard, because he's going to fill that gap. You know,
that's true.
So there's we can be harsh on him, but again, as I said, it's the intelligence of the individual as well.
Yeah. I think from the way his reaction, especially in the post match interviews, Arteta has mentioned it twice about that transition bit, the bit from that goal, and basically saying we're in the last third, we've got to get something out of that. You can't turn the ball over like that. And he's making obviously reference to Martinelli's turning the ball over, and it's I think he's on borrowed time. He's definitely on borrowed time. Someone who doesn't seem to be on borrowed time or has gone back in time is Thomas Partey. Playing at right back. Playing at right back. Obviously, we all got a little shiver when we saw the lineup. But apart from an early run, I think which Diaz did, I thought he was outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. One of his best performances, in that position. And I thought it was when he came in to invert after their equaliser, and he was an extra body in midfield. They couldn't live with us. We totally ran over them in that half. And what was your thoughts on his performance, Brian? Just what the options will be when do you drop some? Who do you drop? Who do you play as a six? I mean, I think Partey's been our best midfielder this season so far. Rice played well. I think it was his best performance so far this season in the six, and obviously Mourinho scored his goal. So what do you do when Odegaard comes back? Hopefully in a couple of weeks with him. And obviously, Partey is, and he's. I think it's his 11th game in a row he's played for us, and that's a record. I don't think he's done that before. I'll probably jinx it now, but he's not played 11 games in a row for us since he signed, which is unreal. But what's your thoughts on Thomas Partey, the general? Brian, sorry, yeah.
I was going to be really cynical and think to myself, he's in his final year, isn't he? He's in his final year. Playing for a contract. Look, I don't know. I think is it kind of the summer has kind of he's had a rejuvenation during the summer. Is now the opportunity of having to play week in, week out. We are now seeing the Thomas Partey rather than the stop-start Thomas Partey that we've probably seen over a period of time.
Yeah.
But what he did more than anything else was he took the game by the scruff of the neck, to be honest with you, and kind of led from the front in that aspect. And it's like Arteta's probably said to him, "I need you to do a job in there today for us, and use your quality as well. So defend first, play your football secondary. Play in front of you basically as a secondary." And arguably, who's the best player on the park? To be honest with you, he broke things up. He made the tackle. Sometimes it looks a little bit ungainly, should we say? But it was still he was still an out-and-out defender in that sense. You know what I mean? So, what do we do with him though? Moving forward, when Odegaard returns, I think he's earned his place to start. He's earned his time to play basically, and someone else is going to have to try and shift him out. To be honest with you, I think Mourinho. Again, he's going to take a bit of time. You can see that. I think Salah's chance was just kind of that on someone's head that's not really probably up to that speed of our speed just yet in big games in the Premier League yet, because as I said, his season's been stop-start already. So Thomas Partey's earned his right to play. That's a start-off point. And then where we go from there, it's good to have the other options, should we say?
Yeah, that's where Arteta earns his 15 million a year, isn't it, Dan? In terms of who he decides to put in that position. I think you can't go without Partey. I think he does so much for us in terms of his passing forward, and seeing the pass is a lot better than Rice's. I think Rice is still a little bit reluctant to do that stuff. It's not natural to him to do that. Where it is Partey. So I think this is what we wanted to do, right? You wanted a squad where you have these you want this depth. You want big name players to be actually sitting on the bench and then to come in and make a big impact when they do come in. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Partey as well? And then we'll go on to the star boy, or should he be called the star man after his? But what's your thoughts, Dad?
Yeah, no, I agree. We were all like shivering with trepidation when we saw him at right back, thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to be up against a mixture of Diaz and Salah and Nunes. Do you know what I mean? But we were pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by his performance. Do I want to see him start another big game at right back? No. But he certainly did well yesterday. I must say, after about 60 odd minutes being there, he was battered. Partey was knackered. But he found a second wind, and he performed really well. I must give him that. Going forward, it will be Mourinho's job to try and kick Partey out of the starting lineup. Absolutely. So when Odegaard comes back, I'm fully expecting Rice, Odegaard, and Partey to be the starters in there. Yes, I would like to see Rice passing forward more, looking. Yeah, he's great, obviously, with the set pieces and like driving the team forward. But I would like to see him like kind of pass forward a bit more through the lines, like how Partey does in the transitions.
Yeah,
that's probably an area that he needs to develop. But I think that's just testament to Partey and his game. Really, he's underrated a lot. I will say it amongst the Arsenal fans I sit around and that he's not often lauded. As much as some of the others, and I think he does a lot of the dirty work that goes unrecognised. So yeah, in terms of his position and his contract, he's in his last year, isn't he? He's what, 30 going 31?
Yeah. A lot of people are saying, that's what he's doing. He's playing for his new contract. He's obviously got a little baby as well now, so he probably wants to maybe put down some roots. I don't know, but
if I'm honest, I would be tempted to say, thanks, Partey. Go take a big move to Saudi or whatever. I personally, with his injury history and everything else, I think we need to be keeping the profile of especially of the engine room a bit younger. Because if you look at it, we've got Jorginho who's over 30, we've got Partey over 30, we've got a Marino who's 28, he's going to be 29 soon. So I would prefer to get someone younger who's got a bit more future prospects with us. But for now, Partey's doing the business for this season. I'm not sure. Maybe a 1 year extension, but I don't know if those make sense nowadays. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think they're probably going to give Jorginho a player coached kind of type contract maybe to keep him on sort of, and then obviously he probably won't be. He's not featured as much as this season, so probably it's going to be. Yeah, I think we're going to have to. Again, it seems we're having to invest in certain key positions. I think it is going to be, ideally a striker, a left winger, and a centre midfielder as well. Again, So yeah, but yeah, you're right. He's been outstanding this season. I think he's been him and Raya have been our most standout players, as well as Saka, of course, which leads us nicely onto him and the fact that he's come out of nowhere. 2 weeks, recovering after his injury for England, and he comes back, Brian, and he scores a world-class goal. All ends up. Some people, some content creators bigger than me have said, much bigger than me, have said that it reminded them of the Bergkamp goal, where control and the touch and everything, and touches perfect for what he had to do to execute the goal. But I just thought his first half performance was outstanding. I thought the second half, yes, we sat back and we dug deep and we defended in blocks. But what's your thoughts on just him standing up again? And he looked really disappointed at the end of the game. I think the person on Sky was trying to make jokes with him in his post-match press conference, talking about him scoring 50 goals. The fastest Arsenal player to score 50 goals. Also, the youngest Arsenal paid to score 50 goals in the Premier League, and Saka weren't really in a joking mood, and he was the same for his interview, I think, with CBS. He was really disappointed that we dropped points, and also, spin it up the second half, right? He gets substituted with 6 minutes left, and I'm thinking, if he's tired, take him off. When there's 70 minutes on the clock, why are you taking him off when there's just 6 minutes to go? What's the point? Because the likelihood is that we might get a corner, we might get a free kick, and we know what his delivery is like. And I just couldn't understand, if you've kept him on for that long, just keep him on for the full game. He's not going to play midweek. You don't think he should play next week, so he doesn't need to worry about that. Let him recuperate for the Newcastle game, which is an early kickoff, and we know what they're like. But yeah, what's your thoughts on all those things? The goal, the performance, the fact that he came off, at such a, so late in the game. Was it Arteta being reactive again and not being proactive? And just how he felt after the game, Saka, how he came across.
Well, look, I think he's wearing the captain's armband and demonstrating in some sense what it needs to be a captain. To come off that pitch and be disappointed, as in, look, it's showing on an interview that, not happy about that. I've kind of led from the front today. Shows a lot about him and his character now. As I know some people probably think he probably shouldn't have the captaincy. That's debatable. But at the end of the day, at the moment, he's the one that's leading us. And the things, obviously, he's deputising well for Martin Odegaard in that sense. As in general performance, look, there was a sharpness about him at the end of the day, and I think we were probably kidding a lot of people upon where he was within the injury aspect of it. I think he was slightly being a bit more protected. I think they'd seen the run of games which are going to be coming up. So I think, there was an air of protection around him, I think, about knowing what we've got coming up. And I think, when you think of the Preston game coming up as well, it's an extra week, isn't it, effectively? Because, you were right, he's very, very unlikely he's going to play to tomorrow night. So he's got another week as well. So will we kind of be expecting that sharpness again to be at Newcastle on Saturday? Look, I think what can we say at this moment in time? He is growing into and understanding and knowing what it is to be an Arsenal great, and he's partially there now with his 50 goals as well.
Yeah, outstanding, absolutely outstanding that first half. Just the goal, the way he just basically had Robertson on toast. Basically, he was coming inside. McAllister was hacking him down. Nunes left one late on him as well. It was just great to see him just how efficient he is and the levels, and then you, again, as we mentioned before, you look on the other side and the output from, Martinelli just isn't up to that level. And we've seen Arteta be ruthless with the likes of ESR and, Fabio Vieira to a certain extent, even though he didn't play too many games, he cut those guys adrift, when he had to. So, again, you just hope that, like you said, Saka can just rest up. We shouldn't need him tomorrow. People, the likes of, you can play Ethan, you can play Jesus and Sterling, and they should have enough to take care of that. It's going to be obviously a tough game, because they're going to be well up for it, and it's a cup final for them under the lights at Preston. But yeah, I totally agree, Brian. He doesn't need to feature. We just need to rest him up and just make sure he's ready to go against Newcastle. Just your thoughts, Dan, on the actual controversy. We had a comment from a mate of ours, mine and Brian's mate, Andrew Brockbank, big Scouser, and big Liverpool fan. Great guy. And he's basically said, "Have you missed the referee conspiracy tirade yet?" It's not a conspiracy, you know what I mean? It's facts, man. We're ref differently. And Anthony Taylor on Sunday night, I don't know what was going. We kind of know what was going on. And the fact that so many people now, Dan, are actually saying, what was those decisions about? I mean, we talk about the penalty, or the penalty that wasn't given. I mean, I can't understand how, they have VAR, they have all the equipment to slow everything down, and you can see that the ball's not been touched. He's been kicked by Trent. He's been kicked by Konate. Nothing given. The Marino goal. They took 3 minutes of checking that to see if it was offside. And you can kind of see straight away that it wasn't offside. The Havertz, incident at the end where he gives a free kick against Havertz. He said it was because Kivior had fouled Szoboszlai. It wasn't a foul. No one. The only thing that happened was when Havertz went up with Konate, he put his arm out and it seemed like he caught Konate in the face, and that could have been the reason where he blew the whistle. But he kind of did it around the same time. And even the corner at the end, the corner, blatant corner, and everybody knows Arsenal set piece FC and everything like that, and they give it, and the linesman's right there, he's 10 yards away, and he gives it as a goal kick. Is it a conspiracy, Dan? Are we going mad, or are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Should we try and put things to bed because we just know that as long as the game's in the balance, they're going to try and even it up? Or what? What's your thoughts on all this? Because I think every game this season in the Premier League, nothing's happened in Europe so far, but every game, all the 9 games, something has happened. There's been a decision that we thought, well, what? We saw something happen last week, or against Tottenham. Van der Ven pulled down. Who was it? Who did he pull down? I can't remember who pulled down the Palace striker closer to goal. And he gets a yellow card. We saw Saliba the week before get a red card and he was on the halfway line. People kicking the ball away all the time, don't get no yellows. But when it's us, we. So what's your thoughts today? I don't want to go into it too much, but people say, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to show you before I let you in. When you go back to what Van Dijk did, I'm not saying that's a red card. At all. He's kicked out. That's violent conduct. He should have 100% had a yellow card for that. He's kicked out twice there. He should have got a yellow card for that. And then what that does to Van Dijk, what does that do? 5 minutes into a game against a ramped up Arsenal, puts him on the back foot, right? He can't do certain things which he might be able to do later on in the game. He's got to be a little bit timid, and it affects the game. And anyway. So what's your thoughts, man? What's your thoughts on all this craziness with him?
I'd like to think that there's not a conspiracy as such, but there's definitely a huge amount of inconsistency, I would say. There's a horrific amount of inconsistency. Had it been Ben White or one of our guys that had given a double kick out like that, probably would have got a red. And just some of the decisions and just the reffing was just poor. Just some really obvious decisions as well. And I think, and it's not just in our game, but just across the Premier League, there's a horrific lack of consistency. And I don't know what PG Mo are going to do about it, if they can do anything about it. But certainly the quality of the reffing is diabolical. The fact that we end a lot of games this season now talking about the decisions the ref has made, and the ref has so many tools nowadays to help him or her make decisions, and they just consistently are getting it wrong. They've got the 4th official, they've got VAR, and they've got the 2 linesmen or lines people, and they're still making mistakes. It's just really annoying, and it's part of the fabric of the game at the moment that is causing a lot more headlines than the actual players on the pitch are getting, and it's just really sad to see at the moment. But yeah, I'm kind of in a space where I'm like, you know what, we should have put the game to bed. We got to do what we got to do on the pitch, and leave the rest to the footballing gods or whatever. But we, you know, the injuries and the way certain players played yesterday kind of contributed to where we were. So I'm kind of one that tries not to focus on the decisions we didn't get too much, but
Yeah.
certainly, definitely with the VDV kick out, Virgil kick out. Sorry, that for me, I don't know why no action was taken there. We've seen players red carded for much less, you know. So
yeah, Brian.
Yeah. Well, the word inconsistency is certainly what's going to be the thing which is going to be rattling around. But I think it's a case where when you think that big games, we're supposed to have the best referees, and they make the game more, their decisions more inconsistent, because the Virgil van Dijk situation was very early in the game. So in Anthony Taylor's head, he's probably thinking, "Oh, don't want to break the, don't want to break the game up here by having going 10v11 after 5 or 10 minutes." Do you know what I mean? As a spectacle of a game. And we noticed that when Kovacic, when we played City, and it was Michael Oliver that day, but he wanted to keep the game as 11v11. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of those sort of situations. Now, granted, I think if that would have happened in any other, I would say, mid-table, lower-end Premier League game or even a Championship game, that's a sending off.
Yeah.
That's a sending off of violent conduct. End of.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of the game, the referee doesn't want to make it kind of, it's still got to have a level of a kind of an entertainment value and stuff like that by having 11v11. We don't want someone, out of a game in 5 minutes. Well, no, you go with the letter of the law. He's kicked out twice, for crying out loud. What, what more evidence do you generally need that that's not violent conduct? The first one you get away with. The second one you can't get away with. It's quite simple. You've gone for it twice.
And then he stands over him as if he's going to do something to him as well. He kind of stands over like he's going to do something and then waves his hand away. So, it's baffling that he didn't get a card for that. And obviously, of course, like you said, Brian, they don't want to spoil the game unless it's an Arsenal player. You send someone off, before half time, and you send someone else just after half time. So, which has happened to us twice. 3 times this season. We've had Trossard on the stroke of half time. We've had Saliba just a few minutes before half time, and Rice right after half time. So it's like, you don't mind spoiling the game as a spectacle for decisions like that, which are really decisions which, in the cold light of day, were not yellow card offences in either of them to mean that they were. Saliba's one, we probably could say, yellow card was the right decision, but again, it's just evidence that, like you said, we just get refed slightly different, and it's kind of frustrating. How does it feel for the players to feel like that? To put in efforts like that and then to be, just officiated in that way. It just must be absolutely frustrating for them. I'm surprised they haven't. More of our players got booked or for dissent or whatever. It's just it's an absolute joke.
Yeah, I'd rather not. I'd rather not see the likes of the Michael Olivers and the Anthony Taylors ref our big games. To be honest with you, as I said, I think there's just their levels of inconsistency is shown more than any. When the big games have come, I'd rather not have them there, because the spotlight becomes more on them, rather than the actual refereeing of the game. And what we just want is actually someone just to officiate the game for what they see. But not, but I'm not saying I'm the best referee, so I can officiate it in the way that I feel like I can officiate it, because that's sometimes how it feels.
Yeah, and good news, we've got Jared Gillett, who's going to be refereeing our game against Newcastle. So that's the 4th match he's officiated for us in 10 games so far. Massive Liverpool fan, as we all know. So again, he's having an influence over, I suppose, title rival, and also for the next 10 games we've got to play. We're playing 3 of them at home. So at the next, imagine that, the next 10 games we've got in all competitions, we've only got 3 of them at home. So again, you've got to wonder how the fixture computer has kind of sorted that out. Again, with the start that we've had, with those away games that we've had in a row, we're kind of doing it again. So we're gonna have to do it the hard way. What's your thoughts going into tomorrow, Dan? Do you think we pretty much put out the same kind of side we put out against was it Bolton?
Yeah.
So that's obviously Jesus, Ethan Ranieri starting, maybe a few more of the kids again, maybe not all of them, but maybe some of them. What's your thoughts on tomorrow? And do you think we take care of business quite comfortably, or what? What do you think?
Yeah, we've got to see a similar team really as the Bolton game. Probably not as many kids because obviously we were at home last time. We are away this time, and obviously any team at home, once their fans get behind them in a game like this, they're going to be up. They're going to be up for trying to cause an upset. That being said, I don't want to see Saka playing. I don't want to see Gabriel playing. I don't think Saliba can play anyway.
Saliba can play. He was only banned for 1 game, so he's available. But I get what you mean. I don't really
even play him neither. Well, maybe for match sharpness, he might play him. But I just don't want to see Saka playing at all. That's the main one. The rest of them maybe they might. I don't know, but I think we need to protect Bukayo and possibly maybe Trossard. I wouldn't want to see him play because he's going to be important for us. And a couple of others. I don't really want. I'm not sure if I really want to see the 16-year-old keeper playing as well neither tomorrow.
Yeah, because that's the option, isn't it? Because, not him, the other Setford, because he was injured last time, but he should be fit if he wants to play him. Because the only option would be playing David Raya, because obviously Neto is cup tied. So I know David Raya got a nasty kick on the ankle by Luis Diaz. He left one in on him when he made that run, when he actually went past Party. So sorry, there were two incidents where I thought he did Party. So I wonder whether he's going to play him then, but because obviously the style of play and he's playing us out the back, it might be important against a side like Preston who aren't maybe used to that, and we might be able to break through that a bit quicker or a bit easier in playing rather than that Setford. So it'll be interesting to see what we do.
What I would like to see, Mike. I hope Jesus starts, and I hope Jesus scores.
Yeah. Him and Sterling need games. They need big games. They need to get goals and assists, just so it boosts their confidence. And totally agree with that.
Well, Jesus hasn't had a goal since January. That's the stat I saw recently.
That's not good. It's not good, is it?
Nearly a year, man. Yeah, it's terrible.
That's not good. Brian, what are you thinking about tomorrow? You think the same as Daniel?
Well, yeah, and I think look, you can probably list, I would say, 5 of the fringe first teamers. So you're looking at the likes of Kivior, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Sterling, Jesus, and I personally, I'd probably play Martinelli tomorrow night just to get him, just for the sheer punishment, basically, that he's got to go and do a wet night in Preston for second half performance. But and then when we're Ranieri as well, so you've got a good 6 or 7 who are on the fringes and who have been on the bench and stuff like that can play, and then probably you mix it up with another couple, 1 or 2 more youngsters possibly in it, to be honest with you. But there's enough experience. There is certainly enough experience that we should be able to cope. We should be able to cope with that game tomorrow, most definitely.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. The players that we don't want to see, obviously, Saka. I think people, even someone like Havertz, I would take him out the firing line. But you're right. I think someone like Martinelli, I think he needs to do the hard yards. He needs to kind of play himself into form. but then obviously you've got Sterling as well, but maybe he plays on the right hand side and Jesus up front. But yeah, we need to navigate this because there's a chance it could open up. You know, there's some big teams that are going to be getting knocked out in that competition after this round, and you know, and I think the draw's tomorrow night, so there's a good chance that we might get a nice draw, and then all of a sudden we were looking at maybe a 2-leg semi-final, you know, and against someone, and a game away from Wembley. So I think, as I said before, and I think we all want it. We all want these guys to experience winning a trophy, winning some silverware, and having that experience, and then using that to kick them on, you know, because they've come so close, obviously, the last couple of years. But I think this team that Arteta's built, you know, not the team that he inherited in 2020. You know, this is his team with his philosophy and what have you. They need to win something, and then it hopefully will kick them on. So you get so close. You got to be careful tomorrow that you don't underplay it too much. So that's why I think the likes of Havertz and Saka will be on the bench as a fail-safe if anything happens. But yeah, we'll leave it there, gents. It's you know, a frustrating, you know, afternoon. Some real glimpses in that first half. I thought we were going to be, you know, we were going to put them to bed, but I think it was the Gabriel injury that done us in it. I think that sort of knocked us back a bit. I think if we still had him on, we might have been a bit more on the front foot, especially with what Gabriel does, you know, attacking set pieces as well, and he just wasn't there. And obviously Timber as well, who shut down Salah, and then obviously he came alive when, you know, he came off. So it was kind of almost
one quick thing, Mike.
Yeah,
I know he's only a youngster. We can't really, you know, a youngster being put in a high pressure situation is always going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But Lewis Skelly was definitely a few yards off the pace on that break.
Yeah.
He weren't 100% switched on.
Yeah,
so that'll be a lesson for him.
Yeah. But it just shows you what we are kind of dealing with, and there are some Liverpool fans who are frustrated. You know, our friend Andrew, who's one of them, is frustrated that, you know, they weren't able to breach that makeshift back four more often than they should have. A lot of content creators are kicking off about it, saying, "Oh, you know, we were hitting long balls and things like that against this makeshift team, and you know, we're up against a 17-year-old left back and stuff like that." So they're frustrated. So the fact that they didn't play our best side, and we played almost against theirs, apart from Alisson and Jota, and we kind of, you know, we got a point, whereas they kind of, you know, not flattered to deceive, but they'll be thinking there's an opportunity there for them to actually take the 3 points, and they didn't. They weren't able to do it. So obviously a long way to go. People are writing the season off. You know, let them. They're idiots. You know, people are doing that. It's just absolutely nonsense. 9 games in, I think there's going to be lots of twists and turns. City are, you know, winning their games, and they're not really blowing anybody away. They're conceding goals. They just about got over the line against Southampton of all teams as well. So there's a lot of twists and turns to come, I think. But we'll leave it there. Thanks, Daniel, for coming on. Always appreciate it. Appreciate the time you take to do the vlogs as well. Thanks for doing that. I know it was a frustrating one the other night that you had to do. You kind of went into it a bit, just how you were feeling. So, no, I appreciate that, man. And thanks for coming on. Have you on back again soon. And Brian as well, of course. For your superstardom, thanks for coming on, and you know, appreciate your time as well, and yeah, have you back on again soon, and yeah, let's hope we can navigate this next couple of games, especially the Newcastle one. I know they've got eyes; they're looking over their shoulders what's happening across the way, aren't they, with Sunderland, aren't they, Brian? I know your relatives will be pretty happy with what's going on there, so. And Newcastle on a bit of a funny run at the moment. They're not doing too well, but we know what happens when Arsenal come to town, don't we? They all be up for it, so we know we've got a job on. You know, like you said, I think Joe Linton's going to be leaving it on after murder last season. He's thinking he's got the SIA badge on his. He's been walking around with the SIA badge, isn't he?
The license. He's got the license.
He'll be throwing elbows right into the back of Gabriel all game long, isn't it? He got away with it last time, so he can do what he wants. But let's see what happens. But no, thanks, gents. Really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone for watching. Everyone who's made comments as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Obviously, catch this on Acast, Anchor, and Spotify. The audio version of this. And we'll be back, obviously, because it's an early one. Could probably be back Saturday night, maybe. Depends on what happens with Strictly. If the missus kicks me out, deliver them or not, probably won't be able to. Probably have to be Sunday. That's another story. Or if it's not her, it'd be the kids. But after, man, it's killing me. Just hurry up. Get back to school. But no, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And yeah, come on, you Reds. Let's get the win tomorrow. Let's get into that quarterfinal and then see how things open up, and let's get some silverware. Let's get some silverware. Thanks, gents. All the best.
Cool, man.
Newcastle, the central figure again, and he looks to trick Michael.